We have a very special guest today, somebody who is a restaurateur, somebody who has gone through the whole enterprise of feeding people, right? He's second generation, as a matter of fact. I call him LT, but Mr. Redwood, can you introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, sir. My name is Lee Redwood, also known as LT. I still affectionately take that name when I hear it. Every once in a while, I hear somebody in the store say it, and I'll look back and they may be talking to someone else. But I still answer to it. Originally from Little Rock, Arkansas. Grew up with Ron Mac, Mr. Mctivated. Now in Kansas City, one of his old stomping grounds.
So, man, today we're talking about goals, and you are somebody who has accomplished goals. And a lot of people are wondering, how can I, as a man, accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish? And as someone who has had a lot of goals and continue to have goals, I know that goals come with a cost.
Right.
And people a lot of times feel like they can simply have the goal and it will manifest. But let's start out with why you wanted to be a restaurateur in the first place.
I think the biggest thing, my biggest calling was my desire to do better. Seeing something being done, knowing that I could do something better and surround myself with a good team, provide a better product, better service, better experience overall. That was kind of my driving force with coming up with the plan initially, the initial goal.
Oh, wow. As I said, you're second generation. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm just asking, did you see things happening in the first generation that made you say, if I had to do this, I may do this a little differently?
Yeah, there's several occasions that I took upon myself to do something a little different. And I would see things that I was like, oh man, I would do this or that. And then once you get into the middle of it, you kind of realize why it was being done that way. So in a lot of situations, it's almost like that quote about Mike Tyson, you're the greatest fighter in the world till you get hit in the mouth and stuff. And
right.
Once you get started, you start realizing all the different things necessary to get a business going, to keep a business going, and trying to actually make some money, not just own your next job. Definitely been an experience, an enlightening experience that I'm still learning from. I continue to learn to this day, new things and new challenges. You think you've got it all figured out. It's like then it's a whole new set of challenges.
You have learned from your mistakes, man. That's powerful. You've also figured out that some things that you thought of, some things that you imagined, some things that you visualized the goal as being were not so, or once you got in the thick of it, you said, oh, okay, I understand now why things are happening. But that's encouraging though. I feel like that's sort of that youthful enthusiasm. I know when I hear young rappers say, oh man, this one song is a hit, it's gonna blow up, this is the best song in the world. I love being around that energy. And I be like, man, you just think it's so easy. So
no, and it always does look so much easier when you're on the outside looking in.
right.
I remember the gentleman that actually had Wing Place prior to me, and he's the one that kind of helped me get started.
Okay.
Initially, he was telling me how much money he had in revenue, but at the time, I didn't understand exactly how that translated into takeaway pay, take home pay, So gross and net. I mean, I understood it from a textbook sense, but I didn't understand it from a real life, realistic. This might happen. This might happen. This stuff is not in any textbook. And if it does, you're not coming home with any money that month, or you might
Right.
come home with very little. So finding that out and kind of making a plan as a pivot to have some other securities, so it's like, all right, I've got a goal of this amount of money we've got to bring in. And it caused me to start living for next month. So I want to generate enough funds this month for next month. So come next month, I know I've got this amount of money set up. So it caused me to start saving a lot better and just being more intentional with spending. And I've gotten away from it. And then I've been non-intentional for a little while. And then I've had to come back to being more intentional with money. No matter what's going on that month, I know this doesn't affect my month now. It affects my month next month. So there's some time to kind of correct in order for me to be okay next month.
I came across something and I developed a quote from it, which is downsize your life to
Mhm.
upgrade your living.
Yes, that's
You
so
got to
true.
downsize your life to upgrade your living. I'm going to talk about those two things you talked about. First, the plan, and then second, the mentor. In the whole planning, you talked about thinking in advance. You talked about being intentional. You talked about planning for next month. And now you can probably understand better how a corporation will talk about annual, quarterly, or biannual. So they break the year down and they say, okay, by next year, what did we do last year? We need to do better this day this year than we did this day last year. We need to
Right.
do better this first of the month than last first of the month. Like all of that plays into your thing and just planning that. And I guess some considerations of that is the season of your gift. Now, your gift is being a restaurateur. So I know you have ebbs and flows and seasons, but I really appreciate that now that you've been in it for over a decade, possibly a couple decades.
Getting close, getting close.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you've worked in multiple different entrepreneur situations, whether it
Mhm.
be up under your parents or on your
Mhm.
own. So, with that combined information and knowledge, you've really done a lot of stuff. Now you can take all that into account when you plan.
Yeah, just making sure you have a good plan. When we first opened up, I say weeks afterwards, or maybe even a couple months after, I ended up getting laid off. So that
So,
time
you did
off.
have a job and you used your
Mhm.
job to finance your dream.
Yes, there's different ways to do it. I did have several people that say that it probably would have been in my better interest to take a loan out. I could see a loan being good, but just take out what you need, but make sure you plan well with what you need. And I think it's Dave Ramsey. He says put a name on each dollar that you have. If you put a name on each dollar you have, on each dollar you spend, you know where it's supposed to go. It knows where it's supposed to go. It has a brain of its own. And if you don't have anywhere for it to go, it'll find somewhere to go and
Right.
you won't see it anymore. Right, exactly. And I have been on both sides of that.
Right.
So I think making sure that when you have that plan, putting a name on it, making sure it's going where it needs to go. But you said it earlier, having good mentors and someone just to kind of help you along that way. This is all stuff I was learning in the trenches in the middle of it. I remember going to the bank before needing any money. I thought I had everything saved up. This is what I'm going to use. I didn't anticipate the layoff. I didn't
Hold
anticipate.
on. Let me just say this. You said you saved before you just jumped out there. So you were
Right.
even intentional about that. So now go
Mhm.
back to you thought you had everything set. You go to the
Oh,
bank.
yeah.
Okay. You had stuff saved. That's where you were. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I saved up money. I had people in place. We had family members, some friends, and we kind of put everybody in place. So, like, all right, this is what's going to happen. You're going to run this, you're going to run that. Recognizing that one goal had many champions to make it come to fruition. And again, having good counselors and good mentors is very important in the process and stuff. So I didn't have a lot of great mentors. I had a few, but maybe I wasn't asking the right questions either. So I think making sure you have the right questions as well. But with all that being said, I had everything in place, didn't anticipate the layoff, didn't anticipate our son came along. So we knew he was coming. We didn't know he was coming early. And then he came right after the layoff. So it was definitely a challenge that was not on the books and stuff. So I was able to pivot and spend more time in the restaurant. I did have a package that I was able to live on for a little while. But with the challenges coming so fast, there's definitely a lot coming at one time. And I don't think you can ever plan for everything, but try to plan for as much as you can. Some people don't believe in a backup plan, but maybe having a pivot plan. I think having that pivot plan and maybe two of them, maybe if I got to pivot right, pivot left,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure I get to that goal. But I was determined. I think mine was more heart than skill getting me there. And just because I was determined not to let it fail, that I pushed through the different things. I think in any other situation, it would have been, one of those challenges that probably would have broke this experience. So,
I like that because you brought up two aspects and two elements that people have to consider in their goal, which is not only the skill power but the willpower.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to learn the skill. You wanted to learn how to prepare, how to serve, how to be in code,
Mm-hmm.
all of
Right.
those things.
Right.
You needed to know what net profit and gross and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things really meant on a practical level and not just academically, and not based on some of the history that you may or may not have seen, because everybody doesn't do business right. As an entrepreneur, I can say for myself that I didn't do business right when I first started. And whoever looked at me as an example or mentor early on in my business, they saw a model that was very much flawed. Man, I think I didn't even incorporate till '09, and I had been doing business since '92. So since the
Right.
1900s. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
I was out there, I was making money. Not a lot, government, not a lot. I paid everything back, government, statute of limitation. But anyway,
Right.
yeah, believe me, you got everything plus back
Mhm.
from me.
Right.
We see people cutting corners and doing certain things that you like, oh man, is that how you supposed to do business? And I'm not saying that you were hurting anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying you just see a model, you think that's the way you go and you do it that way. I'm glad you mentioned that the willpower
Mhm.
has to also be there. You can't give up on your dream. You can't allow your dream to just evaporate. Like, if it's truly a dream and it's truly in your heart, as you said, your heart took the place where your skill did. Like, sometimes that's all you have to go off of.
Mhm.
And I think you have to have a combination of two. So I'm glad you mentioned both, because I think if you go out with just one of those, you won't be able to do it. You won't be able to do it. Once you get hit in the mouth, as Mike said, you won't be able to sustain or get back up after being knocked down. Once that hit in your mouth, you're going to be like, I don't know if it's worth another hit in the mouth.
Right.
I think I
Right.
like just one and two lips. I don't like
Like,
three
right.
lips or
Like
five
all
lips.
these teeth, I like them all. I
Right.
like them all.
All these
Yeah.
front teeth. So
Especially the
anyway,
front ones.
hey yo, I'm about growing greater. If you're a man or know a man who's about growing greater as well, they need to get with our sponsor, Men Making Excellent Normal. They will help you manifest your vision, definitely. How do you get in contact with them? Very simple. Email Mctivated@gmail.com. Mctivated@gmail.com. That's right. Men Making Excellent Normal. About to get the rest of this walk in, y'all.
Men Making Excellent Normal. The practice is a 12-week, 3-month cycle of lessons designed to help men grow with purpose and intention. Each installment serves as a reminder, a teaching moment, and a challenge to become a stronger version of yourself. The practice is not about perfection. It is about progress. Men Making Excellent Normal.
Kind of talk about your mentor, man. And I don't believe you have to have a million mentors. Talk about what it meant for you to have somebody to go to and express, have Q&As with, and say, what does this mean? Or give me some game on that. What did that mean to you?
It meant a lot, just because a lot of things I was thinking about, a lot of things I had a chance to uncover in the process. I was able to, bounce ideas off of mentors. I think they're extremely important, just because sometimes you just need another voice just to confirm what you're already doing. They confirm that you're on the wrong path. So I think having that, and even if they're not in the same field, I think it's important, because sometimes that other perspective allows them to see things that you wouldn't even think about. I remember talking with someone who were talking about SKUs. We're talking about, ways to cut costs, ways to increase our bottom line. And he was just like, well, how many SKUs, how many products are you selling? Is this necessary? Does this really sell, or are you just buying and wasting money on it? And it just caused me to reevaluate these items on the menu. And I think when COVID hit, it really caused us to reevaluate, because there were so many things out, so many ingredients out of the store or at our suppliers, that either I had to take them off the menu, or I had to consider making them myself, and or maybe one of the team members make it. And if it was something that didn't provide the best product, then it was time for it to get cut.
Mm-hmm.
So between the product itself, the cost, and if this is something that people really enjoy, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't just sell food, we create an experience. We want
Right.
an experience when you come in. We've had people come in and they're having a bad day, and the baby's crying.
Right.
And as soon as they get that food and we come out and we start talking to them about life and just different things, it's like you just see the weight of the world just coming off of them.
Right.
And they just become different people. So it's when we realize that we're not just selling food, we're selling experience. And I think in most businesses, that's what you're doing. You're selling them experience. I don't care if you're selling roofs or putting tires on, you can relate to your customer. I think more of this generation is starting to look at the experience they have versus the product they walk on.
Man, hey, look, that's powerful. I only got one more question after I kind of debrief this. For the people out there who have a goal and want to do something, look out for those distractions and those tangents. For instance, I was working with a client, they're an author, and they want to sell books. So I said, cool, your main thing is books. And then they were like, man, somebody asked me about a t-shirt. That's good, that's great. Let's see how it works within the context of you selling books. Some of the biggest projects my company has done have been those projects that had one North Star and everything went toward that North Star.
Mm-hmm.
The branding was about that one thing. Any other item or product pointed toward that one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned having that tunnel vision, single-mindedness about what this business is. It's an experience, and within that experience is food, is these products that you don't know, you love them, but it didn't cost me that much to make, and you love them, so I got this for you. I got my signature piece. I got, and just understanding all of it points toward
Wings Cafe.
All of it points to Wings Cafe, right? And so the last thing I want to say, you cannot have a dream, a goal, a vision without assistance. We already talked about a mentor. We've already talked about, or you've talked about, having people on deck, family members, friends, employees. Talk about that significant other. Talk about that pillow talk that's like, we can do it. Talk about, you know what I'm saying? Talk about that, I'm willing to struggle with you. Talk about that aspect of your goal.
I think that more than anything is the most important. I think the person that empowers me outside of God is my wife. And there have been days where I go and it's like, she's like, hey, you get it tomorrow. You didn't get it today. You get it tomorrow. And there have been times where she's like, you need to close it down. Just forget it all. It's like burn it, call the insurance company. Let's close the doors. I don't want to get in no trouble with that talk. No, I'm sorry. But no, and I think, like I said, it's so important. And it's been times where she's like, hey, I'm supporting you, but I'm removing myself from the business for her own sanity, but I'm supporting you. I'm here for you. That alone has helped. If you have a goal, you have a plan, you have to just be willing to stick to it. You have to be willing to put that work in, but also be smart about it. If you got family, obligations, you don't have to be there for every sale. You don't have to be there for every wing that goes out the door. I'd love to be there just to make sure the experience is right, but I don't have to be there. And that's where those 3 P's come in place: people, process, and product. And for me, it's my people first, it's my process second. And if we get those 2 right, we're going to have a good product every time. So those 3 P's, I think those are effective in if you got a lawn service, a roof service, or a restaurant somewhere. Making sure you got those 3 there, because you have to surround yourself with good people, people that are going to care for your business, like at least as close as possible to the way you do. You'll never find anybody that cares about it as much as you do, but as close as you can possibly get. And the rest of the people just got to respect the business. That's all I ask, is just respect the business, and what you do affects this business. What I do affects this business. What we do together, it affects this business. So understanding that, and I think you can move mountains with it.
So this was my last question, but not the last thing. The last thing is, give me your best commercial for anybody in Kansas City, baby.
You're in the Kansas City area, or if you just surrounded somewhere near the Kansas City area, you need to stop at the Wings Cafe. Wings Cafe has the best wings, the most unique. They fly from all over the country to diverge on your plate. So make sure you come get them right here at Wings Cafe.
Hey, peace, man. Hey, look, man, much love to you as always, and you know that. Hey, look, next time I'm in KC, I'm gonna hit one of them locations.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm gonna load you up. Now be ready.
That's
the
problem.
For the first couple of days. That way you come. Hey, bring your stretchy pants.
And shirt.
Right. And shirt.
Cool, man. Cool. The wifey trying to call me now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, brother. I so appreciate this opportunity, man. It's great chatting with you and be a part of your process. I anticipate big things.
Leron McAdoo is a motivational speaker for educators, students, and parents.
If there is low morale of teachers, low effort and focus of students, or low engagement of parents, then let's get Mctivated. I'm Leron McAdoo. I'm also known as Mc The HipHoptimist because of how I Mctivate people in education.
Leron McAdoo is a 30-year educator, a classroom practitioner, and a teacher workshop facilitator.
I've taught teachers how to be creative with their curriculum, build relationship, and manage the classroom. I've taught students how to find their purpose, monetize their talent, and prepare for adulthood. I've taught parents how to prepare their child, work with teachers, and how to look at education. My goal is to give students what they really need to be the best.
For the top educational motivation for the next generation, get Mctivated. Get Leron McAdoo. 501-350-6646 or mctivated@gmail.com.